Hello and good morning. Today we have with us Professor Abhishek Mishra, National Secretary and National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. We also have joining us Dr. Vanlalthlana, Member of the Legislative Assembly of the Government of Mizoram. Welcome, sirs.
Thank you.
Just to kick off this conversation in a very candid manner, could one of you all tell me as to what is the importance of a platform like National Legislators Conference Bharat, and what sort of a purpose does it hope to aspire? Abhishek, sir, you can probably take the first question.
I think NLC is a brilliant idea in the sense that the idea where you're getting National Legislators Conference. So you get legislators from across the country. And I think that's the first time such an experiment is being conducted in this country, where across party lines and across geographies, across governments, across our political spectrum, legislators are going to come and congregate on a platform only by the virtue of it being a legislator, nothing else. So I think there's great relevance for the platform. Also, the good thing is that it is an apolitical platform. It's not a party line platform. It's not supposed to be, nobody's really judging you for anything. It's not that I have to score brownie points with somebody, or my leader is watching, or the speaker is listening, and, or my chief whip is sitting here and he's going to go back and report to the chief minister or the prime minister that, look, this is what Abhishek said today, or this is what he didn't say today, right? So I think it's going to be a platform where people can come up, they can open up. A very good outcome that I'm hoping will come out of it is people will form some good friendships for life. Right. And otherwise, there's no platform which brings legislators. For example, I'm very happy that we have somebody from Mizoram here today. So if it was not for NLC, I would probably never have met him in my entire life, right? Even had I been, a legislator for 30 years. So that's the beauty of this idea, that you come together, you form relationships, you form friendships, and ultimately, you see, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We might have different ways, we might have different goals, we might have different pathways, but ultimately the outcome that we want is development of this country, and a small little role for us to play in that road along development, where we can also look back 30 years down the line and say, look, I think that was a life well lived for our country. Whatever little contribution I could do, I made for my country. That's all that we want, I think. So I think it's a great platform. Very happy to be a part of it.
Dr. Vanlalthlana.
Yes, I have looked at the thematic participation sessions. So I've looked at the topics also. So I like this commendable constituency management practices. It's what comes to my mind, because I've been to this PRS legislative research trainings on finance and all. So MLCs from different states, we used to converge together, share our views, and like Professor Abhishek had said, I have made good friends. Some of them had become MLAs, like ministers and all, even MPs also. Right. So what I get the most is I learned from them. And if we can have that this participate to these sessions and share our views, like for me, being a first-time MLA, I learned a lot from my seniors. There in Mizoram, we have only 40 MLAs. I learned a lot from them. If from the nationwide conference, if we come together, if we share our views, then I'll learn a lot more from them again. So it's a learning process. It's a sharing process also. It's a very good initiative that MIT has done.
Sure. Moving on to the next question. We've often heard that if you look at lawmakers in general, and if we look at the assembly and the way sessions are conducted, there is always a lot of uproar and discrepancy in the House in terms of how the session is conducted. It's just a part of how a normal electorate views assembly proceedings. When you sort of bring everyone together, not only by their state, but on a much larger scale, like what NLC does those discrepancies increase when put into a room, or how exactly do we address this?
I think the broader a commonality becomes, the granularity becomes less important, right? So what we're trying to do here is take, and the commonality for this conference is being a legislator. So it's not about party politics, it's not about constituency, it's not about allocation of resources and budgets. What happens in a house, and democracy by its very nature is, sort of very hands-on. You got to get your feet in and get them dirty, and there's no other way of doing it, right? You got to be with people, raise those issues, be concerned, fight for it. Because ultimately in any system, private sector, government sector, corporate sector, multinationals, whatever, resources are always limited. And as a legislator elected from a particular constituency, I want more and more for my constituency first. And then obviously you're looking at the state or the national perspective as well. But your first criteria is your constituency, because I think for any elected member, that is the biggest responsibility that weighs on his mind, is my constituency, my people, it is like, if you get a road, you feel happy, you celebrate a road, you celebrate a bridge, you celebrate a new airport in your constituency, you celebrate a new railway station, as if, it's not coming to your home, you are not doing it, but the very satisfaction that somebody elected you, they expected something, you were able to raise those issues, get funds allocated, get the project approved, start construction and get it approved and finally dedicated to the people. That's a huge satisfaction. So I think that will be always that way. I will try more for me and Dr. will try more for his constituency, right? But the good thing with NLC is we're not competing for those resources here. So this, I don't think that once you take away that granularity, then we're only talking about issues that are common to us, like what makes a better legislator, or what makes a better legislature as such, what about the responsibilities of a legislator? What about the accountability issues of a legislator? What about resources? What about setup? What about research setup? If I need to do work as a legislator, I need a research team to support me. Do I have that or not? So I think this is a platform where, irrespective of the parties, and not be bothered about granularities, not be bothered about resource allocation process, we can talk about those issues, raise those issues, and then say this will work for everybody. So this platform, I think, will force us to think above individual constituency level and think about the broader spectrum of us as a whole of 5,000 legislators coming together. I think that's the beauty of this platform.
Thank you. Dr. Vanlalthlana, over to you.
Right that we have in the Assembly Hall. It should stay in the Assembly Hall. Last month, we just finished our budget session. A good friend of mine, he attacked me. And when he came out, we have this common hall in which we used to sit together. We had a fist bump. So he said that, did I attack you? Did it hurt you? So I said, it's only a game. So that's how politics should be. It's somewhat like a game. Sometimes we fight, but at the end of the game, the team, we used to sit together. I still play basketball. I used to relate to that. We used to sit together and we used to talk how we have to promote basketball. That's how it should be. So if we can come together, leave things aside, party politics aside, and think about how we can be more like legislators, not like contractors. So, and see, one thing I'd like to mention is that in 2021, there was this celebration of PAC, Public Accounts Committee, the 100th year. So I'm a member of the PAC, so I went there for a workshop and I learned a lot from there. From all the states, they participated and we shared a lot how PACs are being managed in different states. So I made a report of that. Our chairman was there also. So based on our experience there, we changed how PAC, like the meetings and all. Previously, you used to look at the let's say, the oldest reports that we have in the CAG reports. But from what we learned, they simultaneously change from the latest and the oldest, the reports. So we changed like that. Now, our system has changed a lot. We learned a lot from that. And I hope this NLC, we can learn a lot like that.
It just sounded like both of you all made a similar point that at the end of the day, we are pretty much on the same team, irrespective of our assemblies and the states that we come from. Theoretically, that is fine, but now if we sort of fast forward this and look into June and what happens after June, after the NLC takes place, what is one important takeaway that a legislator you see sort of taking away and taking back to his own district, learning from the best practices that have been showcased at NLC and imbibing that knowledge and taking it back to their district? What do you think would be one really important learning that a legislator of your statures take back to their districts?
I think it will be very difficult to point out one thing. And I think it would be also unfair to NLC to say that you can only take away one thing. I think NLC would be much broader, much more giving. It is about how much we can absorb. It's our absorption capacity that we bring to the table. I would like to take away 10 things, and maybe Dr. would like to take away 11 things. And in competition, I might be tempted to take away 12 things after that, right? So I think we can take away a lot of things, but as I said, the most important things that you can take away is very subtle. It's more at a subconscious level that happens, right? It's that interaction, it's that intermix when you realize that, look, how they're playing something in Meghalaya or Manipur or Nagaland or Arunachal or Karnataka or Kashmir or Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat. And it's not to say that you can identify what comes out of it, but it's a synthesis that evolves, right? And that synthesis comes as a result of the entire ecosystem. So I'm sure they will take away with more than one thing, lots of things, but the learning would be very, very important. As some examples of best cases or the case studies that we can document, some best practices, maybe ideas around how people can be better at researching their constituencies, coming up with constituency-wise plans because when you talk about a constituency, for example, a constituency in Uttar Pradesh for an MLA is about 6 to 7 lakh people, almost 5 lakh voters, right? 1.5 lakh voters. That's a huge population. So one person representing that level of interest. In most of the MLAs that you speak to, they would come with the notion that this guy votes for me, this village votes for me, this village doesn't, right? And that's the way they would allocate resources as well. So one thing that I would like them to go back and say that, look, I think everybody from that constituency has one MLA, and that is me. Whether they voted for me or they didn't vote for me, doesn't matter. Now I am their MLA, and they must serve those interests. They must serve those needs. They must serve those expectations of the people. Because ultimately, that's the only person that they've got, right? So I hope that they will walk away with a lot more.
So being an MLA, so we used to think about our voters, our constituents. Firstly, it will be education, then health. How people are managing with that, how they're helping out with the roads. Definitely, it will be shared. And there's this common notion that all people will be a little bit reluctant to change, but the younger guys, those who are participating in the NLC, definitely we will change our interest also, because we cannot be well conversed in every areas. So people who are very good in other areas, they will share their views. So we'll take back to a state, and definitely it will make some effect also on the ways which we are managing our constituency, and also as a state, the state as a whole also. I think it will have a positive impact on that.
Sure. I'll just round off with one last question, which is, we've heard this term cutting across party lines in the prelude and in the development to NLC, and I'm sure we're going to hear it more in the coming months. This is once again theoretically, it seems like a sound practice that can be sort of implemented. But how exactly does this process of cutting across party lines, how easy do you think it is, A, and B, how can we sort of learn from people across the aisle? Because there is an inherent dilemma whether to sort of agree with someone who's across the aisle or not. So how do we tackle this situation? Because that will be a broad topic of discussion going ahead with NLC.
So I think I have two levels of responses to that question. The first level of response is when you say theoretically, right? And that was a lot of pun intended as I could hear it. What I think, and this is where I think people make a serious mistake when they talk about theory. Nothing is more practical than a good theory. So anything which is theoretically relevant or theoretically makes sense actually makes a lot of sense practically. If it didn't, it wouldn't be a theory. That's the idea of how theories get developed, right? It's either by deduction or induction. And the idea is you observe practice and then you theorize, you test it against a set of observations, and then you prove or disprove a theory. So believe you me, it is absolutely practical and theoretically correct that we will be able to cut across party lines because there would be no competing interests here. It's like walking into somebody on in the lobby of a hotel or sitting on a dhaba, or on the highway you meet somebody over a cup of tea somewhere, right? And you don't have really competing interests. You don't have to make a point to anybody. You just in that frame of mind where you come with a perspective that I want to go, I want to meet people, I want to learn, I want to listen to people, I want to read about their experiences, and I want to see what's going on, right? And then maybe come back richer from that experience. So I think theoretically and practically both, it will be an enriching experience, and it will be easy to learn from across the party lines.
So Vanlalthlana, your opinion?
Yes, like I made that suggestion in the session earlier. So all of us will come with our views, and there will be these sessions. So I was thinking if we can have an online registration system in which we can participate in the sessions based on our interests. Because if we, if the chairman just picks from whoever is putting up their hands, so there will be, I don't know, the name, sort, because many of them will say that, okay, I'm a senior. They don't know, each other from different states. They will be the senior most, and they will try to get the first talk or something like that. So if we can have an organized, let's say, timings, and which beforehand they will get the information before starting the sessions, and now before going, also they can have the information. If it comes like that, they will be more prepared also. They will know that their time is this at this time, so they will be more prepared and concise. And we don't, like Professor had said, our interest, it has changed. Before sessions, during sessions and all, social media and the pressure from the parties and all, we are ready to fight. But NLC, it's not like that. The atmosphere is very different. We are there to make friends. We are there to learn new ideas. So the atmosphere will be very different, even though it's cross-party. I hope we have a very good session on that also.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.